Good morning. Kind of chilly around here, so I know we're moving in the winter time. It's Kentucky week. Um, we'll be facing a tough Kentucky team. Coach Stoops always does a good job with his football team in terms of preparation, and they've got a extremely talented quarterback or receiver turn quarterback in Bowden Jr. Just in terms of his ability to make plays. We know he's good with the ball in his hand, and they've got a full surplus of running backs with Rose, Cavassier, Smoke back there, along with Rodriguez, who are talented. And it's a talented group for them in terms of throwing the football. They haven't had the opportunity to throw the ball downfield as much, man. But they're still a talented group, and they'll find Eddie Gran will find creative ways to get the ball to those guys. So I would expect or expect for those guys to attack our edges and run the football and take some shots because that's really what they do defensively. I think they're a talented front with some young guys on the back end who really don't let the ball get behind them a ton. And so they play good aggressive defense and they're well coached on special teams. And so it's going to be a good game. It's going to be a game where we got to be connected as well because they don't give you very many opportunities with their ability to be able to control the time of possession, and that's really what they've been. So, with your possessions, man, you got to make sure that you make your possessions count, and that's the type of ball game that we're looking towards. And we do get Riley Neal back, and that's good. Man, for this group, man, we get a chance to be connected on offense, in the defense, and the special teams in terms of our ability to hopefully push the ball downfield and complement that with a run game. So the idea of playing complementary football, for us is up, back into play, and we got to make sure that we maximize, like I said earlier, in our attempts and opportunities.
Derek, facing Kentucky's offense with their quarterback situation, is it like facing an unorthodox offense, like facing an option offense? Is it very different from what you faced earlier this year?
Very much like facing an option offense, with strong wildcat elements, in it because he can run, he can, attempt to throw the football, and with that, they're going to find creative ways to do it. They run, and much like the triple option, and you look up and he's backing off the line of scrimmage, or it's a reverse pass, it's something that's meant to get your eyes. In some place, and then all of a sudden, then you look up and somebody is slipping behind you, and that's what you've seen from them. You've seen their ability to create holes. They've been able to run the football for the last couple of years, and it was Benny Snell, but now they've got three running backs and with Bowden back there too. You've got to make sure that you guard him because he's hard to guard. When you look at what he does with the quarterback pull, quarterback counter, he's one where you got to populate to the football and. It's going to be that type of game. You got to run to the football. You got to be able to set edges because they're going to attack our edges. They've seen what's happened and where we're weak, and they're going to scratch where it itches. And so, this group, understands us. I think we understand them and what we have to stop. And now it's going to be, who can line up and play, solid football and find ways to put points on the board.
Knowing that their offense likes to eat a lot of clock, how much extra pressure does it put on the offense to make sure get 3 and outs and take advantage when you do have the ball?
Yeah, defensively, we have to find ways to get them off the field. And as we've seen with Kentucky will go for it on fourth down. So every possession is been 4 down opportunity. So like defensively, you got to find ways to get behind the chains, and then you still got to defend. Option on third down. So you got to be careful about being in a ton of man coverages. Consistently, because if you do that, okay, you get one-on-ones on the perimeter, and when the ball's out on the perimeter, that's a lot of grass. So again, we've got to do a good job of mixing what we do, and then on the other side, we got to be able to stay on the field ourselves. If it's going to be that type of ball game, we got to make it that way too. We got to be able to stay on the field. We got to be able to make sure, again, that we can maximize field position and opportunities to push the ball downfield and put some points on the board.
After last week's game, you said in your post-game presser, we're going to have to make some changes. What does that mean for this week and for this Saturday?
Well, man, it's schematical. in a little bit. I mean, it's a different type of ball game. So you got to make some schematical changes. You got to make some personnel changes. It's good to get Riley back, and obviously, and having a quarterback who can operate, in the way you want to operate, in terms of being able to push it down the field and give yourselves an opportunity to, spit it out and run, and as well as play action, get the protections flipped. That's important. But you also got to look at any other, opportunities, to get better. You got to put your best guys on the field. Not saying that we haven't, but if guys aren't playing well, we've got to be able to look at that too. And looking at where we are, defensively, there's some guys that are coming along defensively, and guys that have had to play a high ton of snaps, and you just got to make sure from a rotational standpoint, you can continue to utilize your depth or get guys on there, right now who aren't as dinged up, and as I've looked at it, man, we've been able to talk about. At the beginning of the week, how are we going to maximize, in the roster? I think you always start with players, and then you work the scheme, but you don't go the other way around. It's still a players game, and I think with that, start using that as a starting point. We were able to, get to the right fits and getting the right personnel on the field. So that's what this game's going to look like for us. I mean, it's a matchup game, a pure matchup game, and we're going to have to make sure again that we match up to give us a chance.
Is there any possibility of Mo returning this year, or is he? Do you know for sure if he's out or not long term?
I saw Mo, in that practice today, and that was, good to see him out there. And he wasn't dressed, so he's doubtful, for this week. But Mo's mindset is, to get back. It's just been a slow process. Like I've said before, with concussions, everyone is different. So, like for him, I mean, he hasn't walked away from it. He hasn't checked out of it. I think he's very much into the idea of, returning as fast as he can. But again, we're going to be safe and smart with what we do.
Riley came off the bench through a touchdown pass to finish the Missouri game. Then he came out through a touchdown pass on a drive at the beginning of the South Carolina game. Did you sense more of a comfort level with him after essentially losing his job for part of one game and then coming back? He looked more comfortable when he got back.
I think he is more comfortable. I think, for him, I've been asking, him for a while just to continue to push himself to play faster and practice so that games slow down for him. And I think that's exactly what he had, began to do, before the injury. And even watching him out, in practice, he was much more intentional about, talking to guys and looking at, what we were doing schematically, and even like during the protocols, like for him, he was taking every mental rep, and that was something before, like Riley had worked, but I think this was a different type of a workload for him, and like I told him, like in this conference, man, you have to prepare differently. It's not any place that you've been before. Every place in this conference is new, and every team that you play is formidable. So, the preparation and sense of urgency has been greater, much greater, since that time. And I think for him, as he's benefited and started to become better, he makes us better.
Can you explain some of the complexities of how Bowden is able to be effective when, statistically at least, they may run 60 or 70 plays and probably only half a dozen are going to be passes. So they're running 90% run plays,
Mm-hmm.
and yet he's been able to, I guess he's probably averaging 120 or 130 yards rushing a game.
He's not much different, in lining up at that position than Plumlee was. I mean, those guys can be very dangerous just in terms of their ability to extend plays, their ability to, look down the field, make something out of nothing, okay? And when you have guys like that are hard to get down, you really got to make sure, again, that you surround them. You got to populate to the football. And sometimes based on, where he's sitting in the pocket and rush and coverage, when coverage downfield, sometimes the lanes get big. And when they get big, man, he can make you pay. We've seen him run around. We've seen him run through. He's just talented with the ball in his hands, and I think that's what makes him so dangerous. Is that it doesn't matter. Any play, can go yard. I mean, if you're not paying attention, if you're not rushing the passer, if you're not, populating to the football, he runs hard, and he's physically gifted in terms of his tools and abilities as a football player. You go back and like some years ago, I forgot. Oh man, I can't believe I forgot his name, but the quarterback at Kentucky, man, who's now
Randall Cobb.
Yeah, like Randall Cobb. Reminds you of Randall Cobb back there. I mean, and we all know exactly what Randall Cobb could do with the ball in his hands. So that's sort of what you have to, keep in mind, and that's what I talk to the defense about. Understanding that, he can make a play from any point on the field. So let's make sure when you're in coverage, man, you plaster, man. But if you feel like nothing's coming, man, you better get your eyes around because he's running and he's gone.
Derek, you've had a couple players, Brant Miller right now, and Jared George, with dads who played in the NFL. How much does it help, and what are the challenges when you're recruiting a kid like that? And then when you get them into the camp, do they have some, it's kind of the family business in a way. Does it help when you get those kids on campus? Do they approach things any differently?
Yeah, I think they do. I think they've been around it, so they understand it. But it's still their journey, and it's different. For those guys because they understand the work involved, but it still takes individual sacrifice and a propensity to want to grow, and I think that growth comes differently for every young man. So the names are familiar, but the territory is very unfamiliar in terms of their journey. Everybody's journey is different, so what you're trying to do is make sure that you get them to match it up to where they're at and what they're doing, and not be jaded by the idea of everybody expects you to play like your dad played. Because I think that's something that you got to guard against because they're not their dad. I think, they're their own individual selves. You got to be your best self. You got to work, to get done what you need to get done. And in doing that, your best football will come to you.
2 or 3 more questions?
Coach, you mentioned matchups, and in particular talking about your offense versus the Kentucky defense. Tennessee was able to make some plays with their receivers downfield. Do you feel like you can finally get Kalijah and Jared Pinkney involved this week and do something against them downfield?
Well, it helps definitely getting like Riley back. I think Riley, gives us, a chance. I think his accuracy and his ability to understand coverage-wise because of so many reps and because of, how he's played, what he's done, and being in those situations, I think he's more comfortable, man, right now looking at it because you go into it saying, okay, well, here's what they are, but we always tend to get a little more pressure, a little more this, a little more that, and I think, he can get to it faster. He can go through his progressions a little faster, and that's going to be important in this ball game as the game is being played. Every game is a chess match. This game is going to be a chess match because we know what they do, and we got to do, a little bit of that ourselves when you talk about being able to, extend plays, extend drives, and put points on the board.
Derek, what's your message to the team this week and for the rest of the year, given your record is what it is?
Yeah, one day. I mean, that's what you do, man. You take it one day at a time, man. You put a good day's worth of work together, and then what you do is, man, you try to make sure, man, that you can move it from today, to tomorrow, and then at the end of the week, man, you've got a cumulative body of work, man, that hopefully, man, it gives you the confidence to go do what you do. And if you do it fast, if you do it hard, and if you understand, what the game is going to be, and you go into it the right way, the ball finds energy. That's the one thing about football. Football finds energy, and so when you can create your energy, okay, man, you're confident in what you do. You can play the game and not have to worry. And right now, that's exactly what we got to be focused on. Letting our energy find the ball and letting the ball find us. And if we do that, then we'll be good.
Coach, thank you very much.
All right, thank
Appreciate
you.
Thanks.
Guys, I've got 2 student athletes